Let's keep it a buck. Amber has been belaboring her identity as a mixed person ever since she got to the house. So we knew that it was going to be a point of contention with somebody at some point, because you're at a HBCU and you're surrounded by Black people besides the other mixed girl there. Let's get into it. What's up, y'all? This is the Venus Journey podcast, where we discuss, enjoy, and analyze music, artists, and entertainment. This is the first time I'm going to be discussing College Hill Celebrity Edition. I started watching it a few weeks ago. I saw some clips before the season started of New York and Joseline. I'm really not into reality TV like that, to be honest. But the clips that I saw of New York and Joseline, they hooked me. I was like, what foolishness is about to ensue? So I started watching the show, and it's about what I expected. I'm not going to share all my thoughts. I'm just going to focus on the issue between Amber Rose and Joseline. Now, the first thing I'm going to say, BET, y'all trash. Simple and plain. Y'all used that altercation between Amber and Joseline to promote this show, and then when the time came to show it, y'all talking about out of respect for the parties and we don't condone violence and blah blah blah. I think y'all full of it. I think that y'all are trying to rebrand respectability politics, and it rings hollow as hell, because why are you employing Joseline Hernandez if that's how you feel? Like, please. Why are you employing Tiffany Pollard and Amber Rose? Why are you casting social media influencers and reality stars if y'all are so above the drama? It's fake. So I wanted to start with that. I wanted to start there. Nobody is gonna die because we didn't get to see that fight. It's not that serious, but it's the principle of it. The fact that y'all used that energy to promote the show, and you're simultaneously acting like you're too good to show a fight. I would have preferred it if they just didn't show anything pertaining to the fight and we had to hear about it from Amber and Joseline in the press. I would have preferred that, because that wasn't even what made me want to start watching it. It was the clips with Joseline in New York where they were going at it, but there was no physical altercation. It was purely verbal. So y'all didn't even need that to sell me on the idea of the show. But the fact that y'all used that altercation to promote the show, weak sauce. If you wasn't gonna show it, keep it on the playground, like Monique says. If you're not gonna show it, keep it on the playground. That's number one. Now, let's get into Amber and Joseline. I'm gonna start with Amber because Joseline is... If you know anything about reality television, you already know what type of time Joseline be on. That's why they hired her, because that's how she entertains people. She has a very brash, harsh personality. So I'm gonna get to her, but I'm gonna start with Amber. Ever since the show started, Amber has been on this kick discussing her identity about being mixed and how she doesn't fit in here and how she doesn't fit in there and how hard it was for her. And the first times I heard her talking about it, I didn't really feel no type of way about it. Number one, it's expected because a lot of mixed people do that. Not, to be honest with you, I know mixed people, and they've never said anything like that to me. I have been close friends, best friends with people who have a Black parent and a white parent, and they have never expressed that to me. But I see like that type of conversation goes on with people in the media, whether it's social media or like media personalities, it's like an ongoing thing. Like they always say the same thing. I was too black for the white people. I was too white for black people. Yada, yada, yada. So when she starts talking about this, I'm not surprised. And I was just like, I'm not going to hold it against her because number one, that's her experience. And number two, I wouldn't be surprised if like producers kind of pushed her to discuss that. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if that was a storyline for her because she is at a HBCU. So I let it rock. But at every turn, Amber is either discussing the fact that she doesn't believe in God or the fact that she's mixed, and it's like she's using these talking points to assert her identity. But the way she's doing it is like, it's so flat. And when I say flat, I mean there is no depth to her analysis of what she's talking about. Someone on Twitter was saying how it didn't make sense to them how Amber felt like she didn't belong in black spaces when she's been so integrated into black culture within the last, decade or so. And I quote tweeted it and I was like, yeah, that's part of what makes it ring hollow. I saw someone else tweet about, like the kind of the absurdity of her saying that she doesn't fit into black spaces when she is on BET, like as we speak. So that was part of it. But then also I was talking about how her struggling with her identity between being racialized as black and white, it just seems like she's coming at it from a very middle school perspective. It seems like she is only filtering her understanding of race and how it relates to her through her childhood experiences and her personal relationships, as if there are no books on the subject of race, as if there is no information available to her to help her better understand the constructs of race, why race exists, why she feels certain way in certain spaces. It's like it's all emotional for her. And that perplexed me because it's like, you're in your 30s. Like, I'm 30 years old and I dissect my identity a lot as well, but I'm not doing it just from the lens of, well, this is what happened to me when I was a kid. I got bullied for being dark skinned when I was a kid, so that's the only viewpoint I have on being black. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, when I think about my identity as a 30-year-old woman, knowing what I know about race, knowing what I know about just history, I am contending with so many different things and so many different layers of my identity that my emotions are not what's driving me to discuss it. And that was the disconnect for me when she was continuously discussing her identity as a mixed person. Now let's get to Joseline. As I said before, we all know the type of person Joseline is. So when we see her in episode 6, I believe, when we see her in episode 6 and they're in the classroom, they're having this discussion. And what's crazy is that the discussion that started all of this was about a Langston Hughes poem that was basically praising black women, how black women looked and things like that. And Joseline took that as an opportunity to not only acknowledge what the point of the poem was in regards to beauty standards and black women, but then she also goes on to give her opinion and say that she think black people look better than white people. And then, of course, she can't just leave it at that. She has to antagonize Amber in the process because Amber is the only person in the classroom who has that personal identity connected to whiteness. Was Joseline being rude to Amber? Yes, she was. She was purposely, picking with her and aggravating her. But when she first started doing it, it didn't seem like it was mean-spirited. It doesn't mean that it wasn't rude. It doesn't mean that she wasn't picking with her. It just seemed like the type of thing that could have easily blown over if it wasn't still such a trigger for Amber. So Amber responds, and she's basically trying to tell Joseline how she feels and that she doesn't like being categorized or other people trying to identify her, which I understand that. Like, totally get that. I don't think she was wrong in saying that at all. Joseline is saying that she considers Amber black because her mom is black. Amber is still like, okay, but stop trying to tell me who I am, basically. Completely understandable. The tensions start rising when Joseline says that Amber wants to be a white girl. So it was already heated, but that made it more heated. And from there, Joseline is like, well, I don't care that you don't like what I'm saying. I'm gonna say how I feel. And, check me if you're gonna check me. Amber responds by going and hitting Joseline. Now, they both had to leave the house and go stay at a hotel. We won't know until the next episode, unless somebody talked about it and I just missed it. But we won't know until the next episode, who has to go home, who got expelled, blah, blah, blah. From a very basic standpoint, if Joseline ends up having to go home, that's anti-blackness playing out right in front of you. That's Amber's white privilege playing out, because although Joseline was talking reckless to Amber, Amber is the one who put her hands on somebody first. Period, point blank. And you see some clips of her talking about, like, basically saying that Joseline was bullying her and that she doesn't think that she was wrong for hitting her. And again, this is that childishness, because number one, if you had been interrogating yourself and doing the reading before you got to this place, then what Joseline was saying would not have triggered you that bad, and you would have been able to, even if you did decide to hit her, you would have just been able to take responsibility and say, if I have to go home, then I understand I deserve that because I broke a rule. They told me the rules, and I decided in that moment it was worth it to me to break the rules because I didn't like how she was talking to me. But all of this, I was getting bullied, so I had a right to put my hands on somebody. No, you didn't, girl. No, you didn't. Once you saw that you weren't going to be able to quiet Joseline down and get her to understand your feelings, you decided that the only way you could handle the situation was to hit her. You broke the rule. And if Joseline has to pay consequences for that, or if Amber doesn't have to pay consequences for that, that will be anti-blackness playing out right in front of us. After the fight, everybody was like empathizing with Amber a lot. Like, oh, this is her racial mountain is playing out right in front of us, which granted, it was. It literally was. Not denying that. But the fact that that conversation was taking place in a classroom and Amber decided that rather than have the discussion and leave the discussion unsatisfied, she was going to hit Joseline, baby, you got to contend with the fact that you could have even brought your ass up in a HBCU and put your hands on a black woman like that. Let's talk about it. And even though Joseline was being very inflammatory and picking with Amber, the points that she was bringing up about beauty standards, they applied to Amber. And I think that's why Joseline picked her as a target, because she was the only person in the vicinity who could be made an example out of. I don't know if Joseline intentionally did that, like that was some intellectual thing that she did, but I think on a instinctual level, that's where her mind went. And because she's the type of person that she is, that's how she decided to go about it. And the fact that Amber, she didn't see it as, once Joseline pointed her out and started like kind of made a joke about her, it was no longer an intellectual discussion. And so Amber went into, defense mode. But the gag is, Joseline was bringing up valid points. And if she had said it in a different way, if she hadn't been joking because of the camaraderie that she thought she had with Amber, I'm not even gonna say that, because Joseline will joke on somebody even if she don't like them, whether she like them or not, but they had got cool. But if Joseline hadn't took that route, if she would have just been like purely academic in what she was saying, Amber would have just had to sit there and be uncomfortable because she was making valid points. Not even about the fact that, because like I said, Joseline said that she considers Amber black because her mom is black. And a lot of people will be like, well, no, Amber is biracial, she's mixed. And Amber even said years ago in an interview with Ebro, I think, that she does not identify as a black woman. So I'm not saying everything that came out of Joseline's mouth was right. I'm just saying that she was bringing up points that is like, this is the place to be having these type of conversations in a HBCU, in a classroom where we're discussing literature that is, defying Western European beauty standards. But how she targeted Amber, and it escalated from there, it's like, I don't want to say her point was lost, because a lot of people who watched the show still understood her points and still was able to, look at some of the things she said and validate it. But in terms of the confrontation, the points that she was making wasn't sticking, especially with Amber, because of like how she was coming at her and the things that she was choosing to say. And I low-key wish that it wouldn't have devolved into that, because I would love to hear Amber Rose's thoughts on Western European beauty standards and how her being racialized with fair skin and European features has impacted her lived experience. Like, I would love to actually hear her get out of her own head from how she feels about how she is perceived to actually discussing the implications of being someone who benefits from being racialized as someone who is not black, and how that has shaped her experiences and the experiences of black women in her life. But that's a conversation that's never going to be had. And it's a shame, because her son is black. He's light-skinned and he has, a white grandparent. But Sebastian is black. If Sebastian become a teenager and he run a red light and he get pulled over, they're gonna see him as black. they're not going to care that he has white grandparents or a biracial mother. So the fact that she is so ignorant about race is disheartening, but not surprising. And the fact that she's at a HBCU and she still is not taking the opportunity to really grasp and understand racial dynamics beyond her experiences and how she feels, it's a waste. Am I labeling Joseline some black radical intellectual or something like that? No. But she still has a better grasp on race and blackness than Amber. And if she communicated differently, that's a conversation that actually would have been worth them having and hashing out. But you know, it's reality TV. They not finna go that deep, no matter how, you know, upstanding they claim to be. Because if they would have been that upstanding, they would have actually facilitated those kinds of discussions. Instead, they let these celebrities play all day in these people's faces on campus, and they filmed it. And they tried to act like they were really doing something so progressive, and they weren't. But I've been talking for 20 minutes now. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please keep it respectful, but share your opinion, share your experiences, share your take on my thoughts and what I said. And I might follow this up responding to the next episode to see how they handled the situation between Amber and Joseline. Hope y'all are having a great week. Peace.